a study for SEVA, that is the Self-Employed Women's Association. It was all about children who had run away from home and who were on platforms. I started volunteering at Diya Foundation, and very soon I was asked to join the board of trustees.
Today, the government doesn't have a lot of structure around helping these people earn money besides some grants.
So we made something like 40,000 candles. And so overnight, we became a large production studio.
I'm so inspired because, see, people born with everything perfect very often choose not to do anything with their life. And here, there is this guy who was born with a disability. Hello from Bangalore, India. I'm your host, Pamela, and you're tuned into Transition Story. Join us as we listen into inspiring tales from our guests, glean valuable learnings, and take action to apply them to our daily lives. Introducing Suman John, a social entrepreneur who defied expectations and carved her own path. Growing up in a family of doctors and scientists, Suman initially followed a different career path, earning an MBA and working in the corporate sector. However, her true passion ignited during a social research project at Gallup, where she discovered a deep connection to social entrepreneurship. After a successful stint at Gallup, Suman took a leap of faith and joined Diya Foundation as a trustee, dedicating herself to rehabilitating individuals with disabilities. Armed with a special education diploma, she founded Diya Innovations, a for-profit social enterprise focused on creating employment opportunities for people with intellectual disabilities. Suman's journey has been marked by unwavering commitment and a passion for making a difference. Join us as we delve into Suman's career choices, learn about her entrepreneurial journey, and discover the incredible work that the team at Diya Foundations are doing. I did have the privilege of meeting some of these team members, and I will share clips during the podcast of my interaction with some of these marvelous people who have created a livelihood under the able guidance of Suman. Hi Suman, welcome to the show. I was waiting for this opportunity to get to speak to you. So it's a real pleasure on my side to be able to host you.
Thank you so much for asking. I hope we have a discussion that's, interesting for a lot of people.
So Suman, we will dive into your journey. So tell us a little bit about how you started your career, what was going on in your mind when you started your academics, a little bit about your family would really help us to get to know you better.
Sure. So I come from a family, my father is a scientist. I have a brother who is a scientist, an engineer, two sisters who are doctors, another sister who's an economist. So I was the little baby of the family. So, I was born 11 years after the sibling who's just older than me. And, I grew up with I think it was a very privileged childhood for me because I had amazing siblings, parents who were very chilled out because, they'd spent their early years of parenthood chasing the first four. So by the time I came, everybody was very relaxed. And so I was allowed to kind of explore and do my own thing. And there was no pressure on me to, in those days, like 25, this is like 30, 40 years ago, there was a lot of pressure to either be an engineer or a doctor. That was societal pressure. But none of that, I didn't see any of that at home. And I think that was great because it gave me, gave me an opportunity to kind of do what I wanted to do and decide on my career or decide on how I would spend my time based on what my interests were. And so, early on in those days, I had my mother's dad he was the economic advisor to Nehru in the 40s. And somehow economics, not many people in the family had taken up economics. And I was curious to see whether it was something I would be interested in. So I did commerce with, a focus on economics, and then went on to do my MBA with economics in that. But eventually I went the market research way because I sort of liked the ability to sort of, in a small survey, kind of try and understand what the larger public was thinking or how the larger public would receive a concept, a product, an advertising strategy, etc. So after my MBA, I ended up doing market research, and I was very fortunate to join a small firm in Bangalore In those days, it was called Marketing and Business Associates, and they later got invested into by Gallup. I worked with three stalwarts in the market research industry, and so learned a lot about quantitative research as well as qualitative research. So it was, what is interesting about market research is you're constantly working on something new. But along the way, there were assignments that sort of really got me excited. And these were assignments that came from, the social sector. So we first did a study for SEVA, that is the Self-Employed Women's Association in Gujarat. And I got a chance to go and meet Ela Bhatt in Ahmedabad and see the amazing work that they are
Interesting.
doing in empowering women and sort of lifting society solely through the empowerment of women. So just making women believe in themselves, getting women small loans, microfinancing so that they could set up their little businesses, whether it was the push cart to sell vegetables or making snacks or whatever it was. Or at the Self-Employed Women's Association, one of the most popular things is the embroidery onto and the garments that they make out of Ahmedabad. And then stressing on, of course, savings, etc., etc. And I saw how society could be changed just by having an absolutely fantastic, sustainable model, and how empowerment of certain segments can really lift the rest of the community. And, that was followed up by another exciting assignment that I got from CRY, where it was all about children who had run away from home and who were on platforms, who were away from their families and who had either, had been pulled out of their families or had on their own decided to run away from their families. At the end of it, you're kind of thinking, what am I doing to make a difference? There are so
Yes.
many people doing amazing stuff. And maybe it was the greater plan to sort of lead me to meet these beautiful people to sort of, I guess, transition into what I later started doing.
Wow, that's such an amazing journey, I should say. Getting into your calling, right? Not many people are exposed in their early years of their career to things like you just mentioned, becoming part of surveys and then trying to figure out, okay, what am I doing? That question that you asked yourself. Not many people like me, I always look at children who are walking barefoot on the street and feel like I should do something about it. But since I'm not exposed to it day in, day out, I have not really taken that thought out or time out to solve that problem, because we all are running behind solving business problems, something which is profitable. But these social problems always stay in our mind, but we're not exposed to it in a way that we think about doing something about it. So that's what I really liked about your story when I was trying to really shortlist stories for my podcast. And it was really, I was amused to see how you found your calling in such formative years, because in those years, girls, especially when, you had a very chilled childhood and you want to just make some money, have fun, go out, enjoy with your friends. Social cause is the last thing on people's mind. So I should applaud you for that move. You did have a good corporate career at Gallup, if I understand. And this project of yours, where you met these kids who were abandoned or they ran away, sparked this social entrepreneurship journey. What did you do immediately to really get into that field?
So it took me some time. I didn't do anything immediately because, in the meantime, I got married very soon, had a little baby, and I continued to work at Gallup right through all of this. And Gallup was amazing with, letting me work from home. And this is like 28 years ago when
Wow.
we just about started using email. And I mean, but you had those floppy disks, and I had a computer at home, and so I was able to take home data and then crunch it and make the reports or whatever. Then, a year or two down the line, we moved from Bombay to Bangalore, where my entire family and my support system is. And I thought at this point, maybe I could go back to work. So when my daughter Nikita was 3 years old and she just joined school, and I had some time when she was away at school, I thought that would be a good time to sort of explore places where I could volunteer. And so I thought volunteering would be a good idea. And it so happened that I started volunteering at the Diya Foundation. And very soon I was asked to join the board of trustees because they had just started in 99. And this was around 2000 that I met them. And so in 2001, I joined the board of trustees. And at the Diya Foundation, what we sort of do is work with people with intellectual disability and with working with adults with intellectual disability. And the whole idea is to see how we can create careers for them. Somebody born with intellectual disability, there's very little parents or family or the community or the extended family, they don't have any expectations from a person with intellectual disability. So they assume, the assumption is that he or she is cannot do anything. I had the good fortune of bumping into someone who had just started Diya Foundation. The foundation had started in 99, but I met Sarah and her husband in 2000, I think, because Nikki was 3 and she had just joined school. And Sarah was looking for people to help her, and she had started this wonderful organization where the whole idea was to see how we could create career centered training programs for people born with intellectual disability. So, when I say intellectual disability, I mean people who were probably born with cerebral palsy or on the autism spectrum or born with mental retardation, typically defined as an IQ below 70. IQ testing isn't really something that's very popular now, but that would be how you would sort of define somebody with intellectual disability. What happens when you are born with intellectual disability is that nobody has much hope for you. So they assume that you have no abilities, that you are not going to be able to manage things by yourself, that you may not even be able to take care of yourself. And so the expectations on a person with intellectual disability are extremely low. 30 years ago, there were no opportunities for them to reach their potential, I would say. And so Sarah had set up this program because she had just come back from the US and she'd seen successful programs creating careers for people with intellectual disability in the US. And she wanted to see how she could replicate this in India. Over the last 25 years, it's amazing to see the transformation that we've seen among these people. So not only are you believing in them, and so there's a belief in themselves, they believe in themselves, because here's somebody who believes I can do something. Here is an institution that believes that I can learn, that I am good at something, and they're going to help me find that something. And they're going to help me increase my self confidence, increase my self esteem, because I can do something. And so, after volunteering and then joining the board of trustees at Diya, there was no turning back because I saw so much positive change in people that I decided that this is probably where I'm going to be parked for the next many years, because this is a place where I can contribute.
Very nice, because not many people feel that way. The very fact that you had this spark in your mind when you were doing those projects at Gallup, and then when you got associated with Dia, you have this feeling of satisfaction or fulfillment that you're doing something meaningful for a set of people who were actually not considered fit for doing a lot of things in the past. So the country has seen a lot of inclusion activities and a lot of social entrepreneurship as a career option sprouting for young individuals. So it's a real great journey. But I'm sure, Suman, today the government doesn't have a lot of structure around helping these people earn money besides some grants. For you, when you wanted to create work opportunities for them, creating a profitable social entrepreneurship journey is not easy. So I'm sure you had challenges. Tell us a little bit about how did you navigate those and then create this Diya innovation as a part of, as a separate entity from the foundation and create livelihoods for people.
You're right, Pamela. I mean, especially 20, 30 years ago, it was a charity model that kind of existed. And organizations that worked with people with disability had to raise their own money. You had to find high net worth individuals who would contribute to your program. You had to go out there and convince people that you had a program that was worth contributing to. CSR hadn't come into existence 20 years ago. That was a
Yeah.
recent bill. And so, in the early years, raising funds was really, really difficult. especially when you're a small NGO and nobody knows you. It was only by about 2007 that the scene changed in India, where there was a lot more giving and there was a lot more organized giving on a corporate level. But in the early years, what we would do then was make things. Since we were a production workshop right from day one, so right from 99, we decided that the best way to get people with intellectual disability into the rigor of work was to actually have a production workshop. So we used to make things, we used to make candles, what a lot of NGOs were doing in the past. So you'd make candles, you'd make those paper bags, you'd make things out of, waste, you'd recycle, you'd do a whole lot of things. And then you'd have a little bazaar at the end of the year, Christmas bazaar somewhere, a charity bazaar, or you'd go and set up a shop, a little kiosk at a corporate or something like that. And so you would raise your funds in that way. Now, what happened was we had an amazing team of people who taught at Diya. And they were very good at designing products. They were very good at executing orders. And so I think our first large order was something for the Himalaya Drug Company, where we had to make candles for about, I think they were distributing this among all their medical representatives. And so we made something like 30, 40,000 candles. And so overnight, we became a large production studio. And from there, we had clients like United Breweries and, Goldman Sachs, who started buying chocolates and candles and various other things that we were making. And sometime around 2010, what happened was our non-donation income was edging towards 20 lakhs, which is the ceiling that the government of India sets for NGOs. You cannot
Yes.
go above 20 lakhs if you are an NGO and you have an ATG exemption for donors and things like that. And so it was at this point that we decided, so we've got a good production studio. Why don't we hive this off and let's show the world that you can be a private limited company with intellectually challenged employees and make a profit and survive. And so we kind of hived off the production unit, set up a for-profit company in 2013. And by this time, by 2013, so it's all coincidences, right? So by 2013, you had the CSR bill that had come in. There were companies that were looking to fund good projects.
Yes.
There was Give India, there was United Way, there were a whole lot of other funding agencies that were also bringing in foreign funds from international organizations that were looking to fund good projects in India. So, it was fortune that sort of gave us the chance to spin off the production unit because we didn't need that income anymore to run vocational training program. And it was the right moment to start a business. And it was the right moment to sort of also advocate with the companies that were looking to do CSR activities that if you are going to fund training programs, then think about procuring from an organization whose beneficiaries have benefited from your training programs. And so there was a lot of advocacy in the area of social procurement.
Yes.
And right from 2013, we have been standing on the rooftops and screaming to companies that social procurement is your responsibility. And, instead of buying things that are imported or are cheap imports, look at something that is made here, made in India, is sustainably made, that is going to create livelihoods for people particularly from this community. And so began this journey. Challenges were many because how do you fund something like this? You're hoping that your sales are going to get you through every year, but to be selling and marketing your products is no mean feat because your products are competing against the best products that are available in the market. You're competing with corporate gifting companies that have been
Yes.
around for donkey's years. Companies are used to a certain price point and they're used to a certain quality level.
Yes.
And
Of
they're
course.
also they're not used to handmade.
Correct.
So, kind of trying to push our way through and get them to understand the reason why our prices would be slightly higher than something that's machine made in China was something that was difficult for us to do. And it also meant that our design had to be something fresh and new. We needed to be on track of figuring out what the trends were. We needed to make sure that our production was perfect so that people, when they see our products, they're not going to say, oh, here's an NGO product. Let's just buy it out of charity. And that was not what we were looking for. We wanted our products to stand on their own against
Yes.
whatever was available in the market. And so design was always an issue. It still is an issue. Then the biggest thing, funding. Unless you have 3 green years, a bank is not going to give you working capital loans, or give you a loan or even extend credit to you. And we had to sort of pump in a little bit of our money. But, being in the corporate gifting business, the advantage was you were going to get bulk orders. You'd get, the advance ahead of the order that would take care of all your production costs. We've come a long way, whether it was GST or it was demonetization or it was the pandemic. Every few years, there was something that was thrown at you. And I think that just made us stronger. We didn't give up. And if you ask me, that is the key to being an entrepreneur, never giving up.
Yeah, despite so many challenges, and see, in other entrepreneurs' case, the workforce is skilled. The assumption is you teach somebody who is not intellectually challenged whatever they have to do, it's very easy. So for you, that part itself was a challenge which you embraced because you wanted to create impact and help these people earn their livelihood. So despite, if we keep that challenge aside, also design, the government subsidies, the funding issue, and the socio-economic situations, pandemic posing challenges, you still did not give up. If you had to really put your hand on your heart and ask yourself what really kept you going, because this was no way a easy journey, profitability was challenging, and I'm sure you took a lot of time to really break even, given that you said you pumped in some capital from your end. But what was that one or two things that went inside your heart or mind that kept you going?
The people. I think that's the number one thing that keeps all of us going at Diya. It is just seeing the faces of the team, seeing how far each of them has come, in the 10 years that they've been part of the social enterprise. Like if I were to tell you the story of Suresh, so Suresh joined us when he was 17, and he has cerebral palsy. And in the first 10 years of his life, he wasn't able to walk, but fortune brought him to Bangalore from his village in Tamil Nadu, and he went to the Association for People with Disability, got rehabilitated physically. He did a little bit of schooling there. And so when he came to us, he wanted a job on the computer, maybe doing some data entry or being trained to do something like that. But he would watch Sendil. Sendil is our head of production, and he would watch Sendil working with his hands, cutting the wood or using a spray gun to spray the paint or the surfacer or whatever. And he was intrigued by that. And so he asked to join Innovations. He said, can I join the team? And so he joined the team in 2013. And now in 2024, I'm so proud of him because he has come such a long way. Earlier he was not able to really walk that well, but with a lot of self-determination, he has done 10K runs. Wow. In Bangalore and Chennai. He has learned to use small wood machines. So he's able to sand wood, use certain cutting machines. And this has given him so much confidence. The fact that he has been able to earn, that he's been able to save, he's been able to help his family buy a piece of land outside Bangalore. They've been able to build a house. They now have rental income coming from that. So many little things. And I think most of all, about 3 or 4 years ago, I sat down with him and asked him to put down, where you see yourself in 5 years. And, he said, and so he put down his skills. And then in his I want to list, he had a whole lot of other things like, I want to be able to drive. I want to be able to travel. I think in January this year, he and we went to Goa and he spoke at the Purple Fest, which is a festival for people with disabilities. It's a huge festival that Goa organizes every January. And he was on the panel where he spoke about where he's come and how he's confident. And, what touched all of us was the fact that he said, today when I go back to my village in Tamil Nadu, I have everybody's respect. I earn my own money. I have my savings. I'm able to buy a box of crackers for my sister's children. I'm able to build a house. I'm able to do all of these things. And you never believed in me. But here I am today. And he says the pride that he feels is unparalleled. And it's also built that confidence in him to learn more. That, so now he's aiming for the skies. it's seeing that confidence, and it's something I see in each one of my team of people with intellectual disability. It's just that level of belief in themselves. So I can't let them down, and I have to do my utmost to make sure that this business survives, because I need to see them and more people with disability feel these feelings that Suresh felt. So yeah,
Wow, this
that's
is
where the
such a
inspiration
touching
comes from.
story. I have met Suresh when I visited your space, and I'm so inspired because, see, people born with everything perfect very often choose not to do anything with their life. And here, there is this guy who was born with a disability, challenged the status quo, did everything in their limited abilities. And kudos to you for having this passion of impacting lives of people with disabilities, because you have not only given them livelihood, it's much beyond that. What you mentioned about Suresh going to his village, getting that respect, literally gave me goosebumps, because it's like this guy was treated as not a normal child when he was born. His parents were looked down upon. He traversed this path just because somebody like you believed in him. And that sheer trust he kept up, and he is scaling different heights. It's a remarkable story, very, very inspirational. And I'm sure people listening to the podcast, many of us who are born no disability, still choose not to believe in ourselves. So, this is a story for you to see how believing in yourself can really turn things around. I also met one of your staff, Bhuvana, who is sole breadwinner in her family. You want to share anything about her story?
Yeah. Bhuvna she has commitment written all over her. And she came to the foundation when she was a young girl. She demonstrated so many qualities that are essential for a person who would be part of a team. She is very diligent. She's a person born with Down syndrome. And very often you find that people born with Down syndrome are very meticulous about what they do. So whatever she does, she is so neat, so proper, so particular about the way that step of the process turns out. And so she's an asset, because may not find neurotypical people who are this committed to doing a perfect job. And so she's one of our stars. And very often you think, okay, they're just going to do what you ask them to do, right? And that's when you learn that even you seem to have expectations that are a certain level. And so she walks in one day with this bag filled with little bits of newspaper. And so she comes to my colleague Lakshmi and me, and she says, "See, I spent the whole night and I got the entire family to cut the newspaper into these little bits, because nobody else was doing it over here. And my work was held up because nobody else was doing the cutting for me. So I decided I'd do it myself." Now, what was the backstory? The backstory is she has these 3,000 little cloth pouches that we had to do printing on both sides. And so she had the duty, she and two other girls, Aisha and Rekha, had the duty of filling the bags with the paper. Now, these three girls were stuck because the rest of the team was busy with some other order that was going out. And Bhuvna, on her own, figured, okay, listen, I know this has to go out soon. So I am going to figure out how I take care of this. And she's taken home a little piece of paper for the measurements, and she's come back the next day. And when Lakshmi and I heard her, we were like, we never imagined that she was a person who would be able to take this responsibility. It's fine you wanting to do it, but then also getting it done. That is the kind of commitment that the members of the team have. And when you again, answering your question about what keeps you going, it's people like Bhuvna. There are two or three more just like Bhuvna who are just they're just so committed to making sure that a commitment made by me to a client is met, and that we deliver the best and on time.
This is so touching and so moving, I would say. So, Suman, you've come a long way, start joining the foundation, then creating the innovation arm, employing so many people who actually look up to you because the careers they have today is because of the belief and the commitment that you had into this entire business, making it profitable. It's a very courageous step. Given that you're already working with a lot of corporates, how do you plan to expand this business? Because every business thrives, but you only thrive when you also have growth plans. So as an entrepreneur, as a social entrepreneur, what are your plans for expanding this whole enterprise?
So, thank you for that question. And I think it's also a time for me to shout out to listeners and whoever listens to this or watches this. that social procurement is it's something important that all of us should hold close to our beliefs. Whether you as an individual have to go out and buy something, say for a birthday or for a festival or whatever, choose something that is, try and choose something that is made by a community that you can impact. We are looking at working with other social enterprises, collaborating with them. We are looking at working with, hospitals, and we've started working with a few educational groups, trying to see how we can diversify our portfolio, create new things, get into spaces that are new and different for us because there's a market. We believe there's a market there. We're also looking at exports, and we believe that there are ways to get into European markets and American markets because there is demand for sustainable. There is demand for something that's interesting, something that has a good story, there's something that's made by people with disability. And I believe that, there is a large conscious population looking for consciously made products. And I think the future is there, and I hope we get there.
I hope and I sincerely wish the entire team at the Innovation the very best, because there is a cause, there is an impact, and there are livelihoods that are getting created in the process. And these products are no way less than any other machine made manufactured products, because I've seen some of these products and I was amazed to see the quality. It doesn't look like it's prepared by people who have learned this skill despite their disabilities or challenges. So, Suman, the wrap up, I told you about the problem, right? I see kids on the street barefoot walking to school from the communities where their parents can just barely afford a school or it's a government school. If I have to think about social entrepreneurship, if I have to turn this concern into a meaningful enterprise, what advice would you give me or anybody like me who is trying to solve a social problem with a business mindset?
So I think the first step is sort of to understand the problem and then define the problem. So, if it's children walking barefoot to school, it's sort of to also understand the community that they're coming from. Is it, what is the socioeconomic breakup? Are the women, are the mothers working? Try to understand what the problem or where the problem lies, and then sort of try and define the problem statement and then go from there. And I think it's very important in today's world to sort of see how you can have your social impact balanced with business goals, business sense. It's important to be financially sustainable because you cannot depend on funding of your friend circle or your
Correct.
family to continuously fund footwear for, say, a certain community. And then these children grow, and you're going to keep track of these kids because they're in the community that you are living in.
Yes.
And so you need to have something that is long term. You need to figure out how you build financial sustainability into this. I mean, there are beautiful stories. There's the Tom's shoes, which is, a textbook case study out of the Americas, where he built Tom shoes, a fantastic line of branded shoes which is available in India online too, where you buy a pair of Tom shoes which costs close to 7 or 8,000 rupees for a slip-on shoe, and a pair of shoes get donated to a child somewhere in a vulnerable community. That was Tom's, TOMS. Tom's is a great story of how you can build a financially sustainable model. But then again, he had great designers who built fantastic shoes that would get you or me interested in buying a 7,000 rupee shoe over anything else that is already in the market. So creating that hype around Toms so that you're got a buyer base that can sustain your social objective or social impact in the rest of in a vulnerable community. So sustainability is key. Also, I think it's very important to focus on innovation and embrace technology because a lot of the social sector suffers from, a lot of us are stuck in the past,
Yes.
getting us to embrace technology or even understand technology. We
Correct.
need this new breed of social entrepreneurs who come in with innovative ideas and with
Access to tech.
technology at the helm. I think prioritizing financial management, because unless you prioritize that and you make sure that you're not fooling around with money that you make, that is important to make sure that your impact is at its best
Yes.
and is long lasting. And then, of course, staying true to your values, finding good partnerships, finding collaborations. Those are always, because I'm sure if you checked out your community and you went into understanding, there will be there will be maybe social projects that are
Yes,
on in the community
absolutely.
that you could collaborate with and create some impact for the group that you're looking at. Because there's a lot, and we are really fortunate to live in a city like Bangalore, where there's so much activity in the social sector and amazing projects and partnerships with the government as well. We
Yeah,
live
so
in a great state.
that's a change that has happened over the years, that now government is also participating in these activities. It was really lovely talking to you, Suman, hearing out your story. I am sure people will get moved and inspired, pursue dreams. It's not, social entrepreneurship is not only about creating impact, you can also create profit out of it. Appreciate you being so courageous, and we wish Diya Innovation all the best. You have a festive season coming up, so I'm sure this is going to make a difference. Wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, Pamela. It was lovely talking to you, and thank you for taking the time and the interest in telling the story. Thank you so
I
much.
know.
Hello, good, good morning. I, my name is Rekha Innovation. अच्छा मैं दिया में काम करती हूँ.
तुमने कुछ बनाया है
मैं
ऐसा?
फ्लावर बना
दिखाओ हमें अपना फ्लावर, दिखाओ, थोड़ा ऊपर करके दिखाओ.
I am in Luna, talking is and emptying rock.
Where are you working now? Where do you work? எங்க வேலை பண்ற?
வீட்டில் பண்ணுவேன்.
வீட்ல and
வீட்டில் எனக்கு சாமான வெட்டாக்குறது, கீன் தண்ணிடுது, எப்பயும் தண்ணிடுது, துணி மறைக்கிறது, சாமான் வெட்டாக்குறது, அஞ்சல் ஆட்டணும், சுத்தமாக ஆட்டணும்.